welcome to South Asia Today, a show that provides you the glimpses of South Asia. I'm your host Yeshi. Here are the headlines. India stresses on mutual cooperation for post-COVID economic recovery at BRICS Summit. As Sri Lanka runs out of fuel, doctors and bankers hit the streets. And Kashmiris hold anti-Pakistan protests, call out Islamabad's human rights violations. Let's begin the show. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended the 14th BRICS Summit through video conferencing, which was recently hosted by China. Presidents of Russia, Brazil and South Africa also attended the summit. The leaders held discussions including in fields of counter-terrorism, trade and also key issues in the global context, including the reform of the multilateral system, COVID-19 pandemic, global economic recovery, amongst others.
Amid the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict and in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, India has called for mutual cooperation amongst members during the recent BRICS summit. BRICS brings together 5 of the largest developing countries in the world, representing 41% of the global population, 24% of the global GDP, and 16% of global trade. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his virtual address, focused on the post-COVID economic recovery. He urged all members to cooperate and integrate their efforts to achieve the BRICS aim of prosperity for all.
वैश्विक अर्थव्यवस्था की गवर्नेंस के बारे में हम ब्रिक्स सदस्य देशों का नजरिया काफी समान रहा है और इसलिए हमारा आपसी सहयोग वैश्विक पोस्ट कोविड रिकवरी में उपयोगी योगदान दे सकता है.
Prime Minister Modi also called for strengthening of the BRICS identity and proposed the establishment of an online database for BRICS documents, BRICS Railways Research Network, and strengthening cooperation between small and medium-sized businesses. India will be organizing a BRICS startup event this year to strengthen connections between startups in BRICS countries. The Russian president said the BRICS grouping was mulling development of reliable alternative mechanisms for international payments.
И, конечно, только на основе честной и взаимовыгодной кооперации можно искать выходы из той кризисной ситуации, которая сложилась в мировой экономике из-за непродуманных, эгоистичных действий отдельных государств, которые, используя финансовые механизмы, по сути, перекладывают на весь мир свои собственные ошибки в макроэкономической политике.
Despite growing conflict due to the Russia-Ukraine war and the COVID-19 pandemic, India's real gross domestic product is set to grow by 7.5% in the current financial year, making India the fastest growing major economy in the world. Prime Minister Modi told BRICS partners that India's digital economy was set to cross $1 trillion USD by 2025. Even during the pandemic, India had taken measures to improve the ease of doing business by reducing compliance burdens on companies. Prime Minister Modi also invited businesses from BRICS nations to invest in India's $1.5 trillion national infrastructure pipeline.
It's been months now that Sri Lanka has been struggling with a severe financial crisis leading to shortage of essential commodities. Now the citizens in the island nation are demanding the government to ensure sufficient fuel in the country. We have a report.
Professionals like doctors, teachers and bankers took to the streets of Sri Lanka's capital Colombo demanding the government to solve a severe fuel shortage in the country. As Sri Lanka runs out of fuel, the people suffer due to restricted supplies to essential services like trains, buses and the health sector. The officer goers are facing difficulties to find fuel to get to work.
සෞඛ්‍ය සේවාව බරපතල බිඳවැටීමකට ලක් වෙලා තියෙනවා. මේ ඉදිරි දිනවල අපිට ඉන්ධන හරියට ලැබුණ නැත්නම් ඒ සෞඛ්‍ය සේවාව සම්පූර්ණයෙන් බිඳවැටෙනවා. අපි දන්නා මේ වෙනකොට මේ රටේ කෘෂි කර්මාන්ත බිඳවැටලා ඉවරයි. අධ්‍යාපනය ඉඳලා ඉවරයි සෞඛ්‍ය සේවය 90ක් දැන් මිදවැටලා තියෙන්නේ.
අද මේ වෙනකොට සෞඛ්‍ය සේවකයන්ට සේවයට වාර්තා කරන්න ප්‍රවාහන පාසුකමක් නැහැ. ඉන්ධන ටිකක් ලබා ගන්න තැනක් නැහැ. වාහන මහපාරේ නතර කරලා අද මුළු රටේම වාහන පාරවල් ඉන ෂෙඩ් ගාව නතර කරලා රෝගියෙකුට රෝහලට එන්න වාහනයක් නැහැ. රෝගීන් අතරමඟ මිය යනවා. මොකද්ද මේ දුක්ඛිත තත්ත්වය? මේ රටේ ජනතාව මෙතන අද දැන් මේ දූෂිත ආණ්ඩුව. ඒ නිසා මේ ආණ්ඩුවට මුක්කු ගහලා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ කරේ තවදුරටත් මේ රටේ ජනතාව වලපල්ලට ඇදලා දැමීම.
The growing economic crisis in Sri Lanka has led schools to go online and civil servants have been told to work from home in order to conserve energy. Long queues of vehicles could be seen snacking around a shut petrol station in the capital Colombo. Sri Lanka will issue fuel only to trains and buses, medical services and vehicles that transport food.
මිතතොක බෙදා හැරීමේ ගැටලුවක් මතුවෙනවා. ඒ නිසා තමයි ජූලි මාස 10 වෙනි දින තෙක් අත්‍යවශ්‍ය සේවා පමණක් පවත්වාගෙන ගොස් අනිත් කටයුතු తాවකාලික වශයෙන් අත්හිටවීමේ වැඩපිළිවෙලක් තමයි ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන බවට කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය තීරණය කළේ.
A top delegation from the US Treasury and State Departments also met with Sri Lankan leaders in Colombo for talks as Sri Lanka seeks overseas assistance to find a way out of its worst economic crisis in decades. A team from the International Monetary Fund is already in Sri Lanka for talks on a possible $3 billion bailout package. Sri Lanka has also sought India's help to beat the fuel crisis. The island nation is wilting under its worst financial crisis in 7 decades, with foreign exchange reserves at record lows, leaving it scrambling to pay for essential imports, including fuel, food and medicine.
Now we take a look at some happenings in Asia in a segment called Asia Watch.
Japan is eager to export its food product. Recently, a food export fair was held in capital Tokyo. In the exhibition, around 400 exporters and producers exhibited their produce to attract foreign buyers. Most of the exhibited products are free to taste. This grand exhibition was organized by JETRO. JETRO set the booth name JFWDO. It is the steering organization of Japanese food export. Many foreign importers visit to get consultation. Under the shortage of wheat trading, rice powder is re-evaluated its value. Rice powder is the ingredient of noodle, dumpling and bread. Also, it is highly evaluated by gluten-free effect. Japan is also called fruit heaven. Each prefecture of Japan has its honorable fruit. Japan's strategic food export plan will accelerate world trading and solve the shortage problem of world food product accommodation. Samsung Electronics said it has begun mass producing chips with advanced 3nm technology, the first to do so globally as it seeks new clients to catch up to far bigger rival TSMC. Design of the new 3nm chip making process reduces power consumption by up to 45%, improves performance by 23% and reduces area by 16% compared with conventional 5nm chip making process. The South Korean firm did not name clients for its latest foundry technology, with supplies made to order chips like mobile processors and high-performance computing chips. An analyst said Samsung itself and Chinese companies are expected to be among the initial customers. Samsung, which controls 16.3% of the global market for contract production of chips, according to data provider TrendForce, announced a 171 trillion won investment plan last year to overtake Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation as the world's top logic chip maker by 2030. Farmers in Nepal face a shortage of fertilizers during the peak harvest season that could reduce food availability and incomes. But the silver lining is that Nepal is trying to purchase fertilizers from India through a government-to-government agreement. On the slopes surrounding the capital Kathmandu, Gopal Kafle, was busy preparing his field to transplant paddy saplings. His vows for the time being have been warded off as he was able to secure a sack of fertilizer before the price shot up owing to the shortage. In order to increase production, Gopal has been using 6.5 kilograms of fertilizers immediately after the transplantation of saplings. In due course of time, the amount of fertilizers to be used in the field continues to increase, adding to the expenses of the farmers. With an acute shortage of fertilizers during the peak harvest season, the harvest for the season could dwindle further, clashing incomes, increasing fear of food shortage and increased inflation. The agricultural sector of the Himalayan nation contributes to about 25% of the national economy, further employing about 60% of the workforce of Nepal. In the recent years, drone technology has picked up pace, especially with operation systems being improved and deregulated. Now companies are focusing on the latest drone technology, which will be efficient for logistics and disaster sites. In Japan, the level 4 of the drone system will begin by the end of this year. Under this system, the operator of the system could fly a drone in the area where it is not visible to the operator's eye. Terra Labo conducted a research and development project on the subject of support system in this area, which is devastated. Japanese company Robodex Corporation has developed a drone that uses hydrogen fuels for battery. Considering the environmental aspect, the company believes that clean fuel will be key to flying long distances. As drone regulations are relaxed and technologies are being developed, drones will be useful in disaster management, logistics, and all other fields in the future.
Moving on, a group of Kashmiri activists belonging to Kashmir's People's National Party protested against Pakistan on the sidelines of the ongoing 50th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva. Protesters carrying placards and banners raised anti-Pakistan slogans as they demanded Islamabad to free Kashmir and other parts that has illegally been occupied for decades. We have a report.
A number of Kashmiri activists led by the chairman of the United Kashmir People's National Party, Sardar Shaukat Ali Kashmiri, demonstrated against Pakistan on the sidelines of the ongoing 50th session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva. They raised anti-Pakistan slogans and demanded Islamabad to free Kashmir and other parts that it has illegally occupied for decades.
Pakistan! With Jammu Kashmir! Pakistan! With Jammu Kashmir!
They held banners reading "Stop land grabbing and occupying hilltops of POK" and "Terrorist infrastructure must be dismantled." While addressing the demonstrators, Shaukat Ali Kashmiri said, Pakistan has given free hand to the army and it is increasingly involved in the human rights violations in the region.
It is the only country which is for the army, not for the people. And we are here, belonging to all oppressed nations. We are in a great alliance. Our voice is united. We will fight against slavery, plundering of natural resources, and liberation of our people unitedly. Long live Bro, long live Pashtun, long live Sindhi, long live Kashmiri, long live the people.
Soon after British India's partition in 1947, Pakistan Army, which largely comprised tribal mercenaries, invaded and occupied a part of Jammu and Kashmir. POK and Gilgit-Baltistan have remained under its occupation since then. The land, the resources and the people of the region have been overly exploited by Islamabad for these many years. While on one side, Pakistan has marginalized these people socially and politically, it has exploited all their resources indiscriminately on the other side. Their land and rivers are used to serve the people of Pakistan and not those who have a prerogative over them.
We are going to submit a memorandum to the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. We were here, we were protesting against the Pakistani atrocities. Pakistan is plundering our natural resources. He is occupying our land. We are the owner of the natural resources, rivers, dams, but they are producing electricity and exporting to Pakistan, and there is a shortage of electricity 15 to 20 hours per day. There is a unemployment, there is a terrorism, there is a extremism promoted and projected by Pakistan, and we are here to raise our voices against these atrocities.
Kashmiri activists have time and again knocked on the door of the international community to intervene in the rapidly worsening human rights situation in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. They haven't, however, received much success, as all what the global bodies have managed to come up with so far is mere condemnation. The activists, however, say they are not going to give up and their fight against Pakistani atrocities will continue until their demands are fulfilled and rights are restored.
Pakistan! Stop terrorism! Pakistan! Stop terrorism!
Enriched with enamoring folk songs and dances, visual arts and music, Goa's culture is a beautiful harmonization of East and West, and its citizens have taken the best of both worlds. To celebrate this amazing fusion of two cultures, Goans host a number of festivals throughout the year. The Sao Jao festival that was recently celebrated in the state is one among these festivities that pay tribute to Saint John, the Baptist who was believed to have baptized Lord Jesus. Take a look.
As the monsoon arrives, the entire state of Goa gets soaked in the festivities of San João Carnival, one of the famous fiestas of the state. Held every year in the month of June, this Catholic festival is a part of Portuguese heritage and is celebrated in dedication to Saint John the Baptist, who, according to Christian scriptures, is said to have baptized Lord Jesus. During the festival, local folks and tourists jump into wells or man-made ponds to commemorate the leap of joy which Saint John is said to have taken in the womb of his mother Elizabeth when Virgin Mary visited her. People also wear kopel, a beautiful headgear made of flowers, fruits and leaves, and scream Viva San John to mark the occasion. Though observed across the state, villages of Kottalim in South Goa and Harmal, Baga, Shiolim and Terekhol in North Goa celebrate it with immense enthusiasm.
Today is our traditional Sanjao feast, and we are celebrating in Shiolim since 27 years in Shiolim. This is our traditional feast of Saint John the Baptist. And all people from all over the country and over the world come to celebrate our feast.
Oh, it's really beautiful seeing so much colour and seeing so much culture of Goa being on display and people being out in the rain and enjoying themselves, and yeah, it's been a lovely day.
Boat parade in Shiolim is the highlight of the festival that usually sees both visitors and tourists running into thousands. Held in front of St. Anthony's Church, it was first started in 1992 and marks the beginning of revelry in the San John Festival. With the theme Love, Fear and Death. This year's boat parade saw a number of colourful floats like the one featuring football spot with FIFA trophy, another representing boat ambulance and many more with different ideas.
Today is the feast of Saint John the Baptist, celebrated all over the world. So Saint John the Baptist is a legendary figure, in a biblical figure who lived in the times of Jesus. So we celebrate his feast today. And in Seoul, that is here, we organize it in a special way. We have a traditional boat parade which is happening here for the last almost 100 years or above. But for last 28 years, we organize it in a more organized way. In a sense, we have the boats, we acknowledge their presence, we give them prizes, and we have this setup here. So we have around 10 to 12 boats that come here every day. They're colorfully decorated with attire, Sanjav attire, and we have this boat parade here when a lot of people participate, and this is a total people's feast.
As part of the festival, locals also entertain visitors with folk dance performances and musical renditions. Food and drinks are other enticements of the Sanjav festival, particularly Feni, a spirit produced especially in Goa that overflows during the celebration. Along with locals, tourists can also be seen enjoying this festival while dancing in rainwater, cherishing a fun-filled and colorful experience.
We are celebrating Sanjav every year. This is the traditional Sanjav that is celebrated in Sholim. It is a boat festival, and this cross which is here, which is built by our ancestors of Badem, and we are coming here to pay respect for it by putting this traditional kopel which I am wearing right now to the cross and to venerate him. And it is a celebration that is celebrated. It is a feast that is celebrated with great pomp and joy all over Goa, because it is the feast of Saint John the Baptist that we are celebrating today.
It's the first time that I've seen a cultural festival like that, and we've always wanted to explore Goa. So I think we came at the accurate most time of the year, because this is an annual fest and everybody's wearing those tiaras originally made by them at their home. And it's just a really nice vibe, and it's a nice festival. Everybody sings Goan songs and they dance their cultural on their cultural music and their cultural form of dance. So it's just really a new experience and a good one.
A kaleidoscopic blend of Indian and Portuguese culture, Goa celebrates numerous exciting festivals that draw the attention of people from across the world. Celebrated with great enthusiasm and fervor, these festivals in Goa manifest the perfect mix of culture and heritage, giving a refreshing experience to town dwellers as well as tourists.
It's time for me to wrap up today's episode. We will be back next week at the same time. This is Yeshi signing off on behalf of the entire production team of South Asia Today. Goodbye and take care.